In just a few short moments, I am going to be talking about something that is happening in the United States and all over the world. It's brainwashing. Oh boy, I'd hate for you to miss this episode, so let's go. Hey, this is Stephanie, and I am your very own truth detective. You know, I am a mad researcher. I love to investigate and find evidence and facts on topics that are interesting to you and are really happening in our country and the world today. If you are a new listener here at Truth Detective, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I hope that you enjoy it. As always, I am going to go off script for just a moment. I have a couple of things that I want to talk about first before we begin with this episode. Well, it's been about 4 weeks since I made the turn from Talk Tales and Trivia to Truth Detective, and I would love some feedback. I would love to know how you feel that I am doing. I've had 4 episodes. Go back and listen to all of them. My email address is truthdetectivepodcast@gmail.com. I would sure love suggestions, comments, and possible topics. Now, I want to talk about something that has to do with our topic today, and that is Tom MacDonald. Well, he is a white rapper, and he sings about some politically charged things that might just trigger some people. I love that he is speaking his truth. Anyone that stands up and speaks their truth and what they believe in and what they stand for is A-okay with me. And he is self-promoting and marketing his albums through his website. The link will be in the show notes. The song that I love is called Brainwashed. And it also gave me the idea for this episode. I want to play a little bit of the song, and then I'll play another clip of Tom MacDonald talking about speaking his truth.
They can't stop us, 'cause we're ready to fight, trying to brainwash us. But we won't let freedom die. The whole world's brainwashed.
Everybody pick a team, start a riot in the streets.
The whole world's brainwashed.
It's us against them, it ain't you against me.
Step 1, train the people only to consume. Step 2, infiltrate adults with the news. Step 3, indoctrinate the children through the schools and the music and the apps on the phones that they use. Step 4, separate the right from the left. Step 5, separate the white from the black. Step 6, separate the rich from the poor. Use religion and equality to separate them more. Step 7, fabricate a problem, made a lie. Step 8, put it on the news every night. Step 9, when people start to fight and divide, take control. This is called situational design. They can't stop us, 'cause we're ready to fight, trying to brainwash us. But we won't let freedom die. The whole world's brainwashed.
Everybody pick a team, start a riot in the streets.
The whole world's brainwashed.
It's us against them, it ain't you against me.
The whole world is going crazy right now. In the day and age of misinformation, people are starving for the truth. So start spreading it. This is how I did my part. I wrote a song called Brainwashed about the different social, political, economic, racial, and religious tactics that they use to divide us. I recorded the song and my girlfriend shot me a music video. We ended up going #1 on iTunes over all major label artists in all genres. And the music video got 3 million views in 4 days. People are hungry for the truth. Go give it to them.
Tom is so right. People are searching for the truth, so give it to them. And I'm going to give you some truth bombs about brainwashing, just like he did. Let's get started. As always, I love to start out with a definition, and so we shall, with brainwashing. On dictionary.com, it says a method for systemically changing attitudes or altering beliefs, originated in totalitarian countries, especially using torture, drugs, or psychological stress techniques, such as North Korea, which we spoke about last week. Any method of controlled systemic indoctrination, especially one based on repetition, or confusion. Brainwashing by TV commercials, say for example. Well, here's a definition of indoctrination, which kind of means the same thing: to instruct in a doctrine, principle, ideology, especially to imbue with a specific partisan or biased belief or point of view. To teach, to imbue with learning. From a Gab News email I recently received, I found this quote: "Part of brainwashing includes wanting us shell-shocked with rapidly changing information overload. When people are in a state of fear, they are very susceptible to manipulation and they are very easy to control, right? While we are all dazed and confused, brainwashers are destroying families, small businesses, and entire nations. They want us shell-shocked, all right, but who's they? Well, they can be anyone in authority: politician, government, cultists, religious believers, anyone that has control." Well, this particular email was talking about brainwashing and manipulation, something that we, unfortunately, in today's society, know a little bit more about. And you may be totally unaware of what is happening. Well, we are going to wake up right now on this episode here. Here are 2 newspaper clips on brainwashing from so many years ago. The Ottawa Journal, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the 27th of March, 1976. It says here, "The incidence of brainwashing seems to have widened, not narrowed. If your eye is suspicious enough, you can see traces of it everywhere. Whole countries use it. Churches use it. Cultists use it. Radical groups, street gangs, prisons, psychologists, psychotherapists all use it. And there is no question now that properly applied and given enough time, brainwashing works." Well, we know it works. We've seen all of the articles and all of the sad pictures of brainwashing that go on in places like communist China. Well, there's this from the Emporia Gazette, Emporia, Kansas, 27th of February, 1976. It says here, "Unlike propaganda or advertising, brainwashing relies on mental and physical coercion to force a person into doing what society and his own moral scruples scream out against doing." The term comes from the Chinese characters he knew, literally wash brain, and it was the Chinese communists that truly perfected the technique. After Mao Zedong, also known as Chairman Mao, conquered the mainland in 1949, communists herded thousands of nationalists into revolutionary universities, where their views were altered through daily study sessions and harangues. In other words, brainwashing. Chinese students abandoned the sacred precepts of their culture and denounced their parents. It's a terrible thing. Today, more than ever, brainwashing takes on more meaning, with the roots starting many years ago. In today's social structure, we have the media, news, internet, social media, YouTube videos, movies, and so much more to make our heads just spin off of our necks practically in confusion and to reinforce brainwashing into our lives on the daily. It used to be back in my day, when I was young, and perhaps you can remember this too, that I watched the news with my parents at night, once a night. And now news is on somewhere all the time, and we can catch all the headlines from all over the world, 24/7. We get so much news from so many different places and from so many different people with different viewpoints that it's no wonder why we question what we believe to be true. We ought to question, right? Isn't that what this is all about? We ought to ask about these pressing concerns. We want to be clear-headed after all, right? We don't want to be brainwashed. That's no good. Well, let's look at an interesting movie about being brainwashed. The Manchurian Candidate is an older book and movie, but still rings true today. The original movie came out in 1962, but there was an updated one that came out in 2004. Well, look here. On the ThoughtLearningMind.com website, it says this. In the book and film The Manchurian Candidate, a successful senator is captured by Korean soldiers during the war and brainwashed into becoming a sleeper agent for them with the intent of assassinating the presidential candidate. The film shows that even an intelligent and powerful man can be brainwashed and can be broken down. Manchuria is a region of northeast China, also a native or inhabitant of the region. And the movie, starring Denzel Washington, who is great, drops an excellent example of the brainwashing effect and how it takes over with manipulation, confusion, chaos, and plenty of nightmares, truly not able to function because the character that is played by Denzel Washington becomes someone that he is not. Further investigation finds that according to Lexico, Washington Post, and Cambridge English Dictionary, the term Manchurian candidate refers to a person who is disloyal to their own country or who harms their own country or political parties because they are under the influence of another party or country. Manchurian Candidate is associated with brainwashing due to the novel and movie, but it has become more generalized to refer to any politician that may have an ulterior agenda. This term has become synonymous with the term programmed assassin. Some synonyms for a Manchurian Candidate nowadays would be a servant, pawn, a mouthpiece, a patsy, a marionette, a stooge, a doll, a pushover, a puppet, or, my favorite, an empty suit. The person who is trying to manipulate you or brainwash you will want to know everything about you and change your beliefs and your core principles dramatically. And they do. It actually works. The brainwashers will have done their research about what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and who you trust and who is important to you and who you listen to for advice. They know it all. An example is the military, as it is in the movie The Manchurian Candidate. The strengths and core values of the military are extremely well known. After all, the military has been around forever, and the upper military generals and the Pentagon have researched thoroughly coercion and brainwashing at any cost, and sometimes at the expense of human life. Sad to say, we are well versed in brainwashing on this scale. The brainwasher will begin the process of brainwashing and or manipulating or adjusting you, but this takes a few steps. We're familiar with these steps, though. We all have been subject to one or to all of these steps, unfortunately. Perhaps not as aggressively. It could be a family member or a partner or a friend, or it might be someone or a group of people desperately wanting to have a concrete result, such as a persecution of a segment of the population, like the Falun Gong practitioners or the Uyghurs in China. A person wanting to influence a huge amount of people, such as a country or a group. And there are cults and religious organizations that do this. Let's quickly go down a list of how brainwashing happens, piece by piece. Well, we have isolation, attacks on self-esteem, us versus them, blind obedience, and then we have the testing that has to continue on after the brainwashing is complete, all of which can seamlessly happen with little notice to you, me, or whoever the subject is. Well, let's start with the isolation. Now that's easy. Isolation is utilized because having friends and family around is perceived as dangerous to the mission of brainwashing, right? The last thing a brainwasher wants is for someone with a different opinion to theirs questioning what you are now being asked to believe. The isolation could start in the form of not allowing access to family or friends, or constantly checking where someone is and who they are with. It can include telling untruths about a person, friend, group of people, a particular race, a gender, etc., etc. So you despise that person or group and will shy away or use isolation because that is the best thing to do for your own good. Your well-being depends on it. And so you immediately fight against that group. Let's talk about the attacks on self-esteem. That happens. Government, an organization, the military, a cult, a religious organization, etc., etc. The list goes on. Who wants to brainwash another can only do so if their victim is in a vulnerable state and has low self-confidence. You see, I mentioned this in the episode on the big lie, that to kick a person when they are down on their luck is the best way to attack self-esteem and achieve brainwashing. Vulnerability is a sure and most effective way to do this. When that individual or a group of people are at the end of their rope, such as no job, no money, and dependency on some sort of authority that tells the individual or group, it will be okay. Don't worry. We will take care of you. There are no jobs for you, but listen to us. We will guide you to happiness. You know you're in trouble when you start hearing that. A broken person is much easier to rebuild with the brainwasher's beliefs. And maybe the brainwasher has been brainwashed himself. Who knows? The brainwasher absolutely needs to break down the victim's self-esteem and self-confidence. This could be through sleep deprivation, verbal or physical abuse, embarrassment, or intimidation, much like they do in communist countries like China or North Korea. A brainwasher will start to control everything about the victim's life, from food, the time they sleep, or even using the bathroom. Well, how about us versus them? Well, that's something. To break a person, you have to reshape and change them entirely into a completely different way of thinking. A substitute life will be introduced. This will be a life that is far more attractive than their present one, or so it may seem. The brainwashed victim will be told to only associate with other people who have been through the same brainwashing and now have the new adjusted thoughts that praise the new regime or the brainwasher's beliefs. This is no way to live. It's all about belonging to a group dynamic, doing the same thing and thinking the same way about society, culture, political belief, religious belief, or anything else the brainwasher wants you to believe. People have always been noted as tribal and wanting to be part of a group. So is it any wonder that brainwashing works? And so the brainwasher needs to be convincing their victim, who the brainwasher is brainwashing, that they are in an elite group of very special people, a class to their own. And so that's a special group that everyone wants to be. And that is why they are agreeing to being brainwashed. They think they are in an elite group. And perhaps when you were younger and in school, you saw this on a lesser scale. I know I did. Well, you saw this with groups, the cool kids versus the jocks versus the nerds. We all hung out in groups, and we were all told that that was okay. How about blind obedience? That's a thing. The ultimate result for a brainwasher is blind obedience, where the victim follows orders without question. We see that all the time. By positively rewarding the person when they do what the brainwasher says, the individual gets the thing they want most, whether it be money, to be noticed, but also negatively punished if the person or group doesn't do what they want. Chanting a phrase such as Black Lives Matter or defund the police, say for example, those are the only phrases I can really think of right now, and continuously repeating it is an effective way to control a person or a group. A repetitious phrase creates a calming, unified state of being, even if it's not a positive one. You are with others that feel the same, and that is so relaxing. The very last step is testing. This must always be done to show that there is devotion from the individual being brainwashed, and to test if the brainwashing has been accomplished in the end. Ask the followers to do things to prove they are still brainwashed and never give up. A brainwasher can never think that the brainwashing is finished, because it never does end. There are always different sequences of events where the individual, the group, the community, the organization, the cult followers, etc., the list goes on, could start to regain their own autonomy and start being authentic to the way they once were, and their old core values and having their own thoughts come back. They somehow mistrust the brainwasher. That's the brainwasher's biggest fear. This is an easy fix. The brainwasher has practiced this over and over, testing the brainwashed individual or group by using different tactics, but still having the same messaging. Not only shows that the individual or group are still brainwashed, it allows the brainwashers to see just how much control they still have over their victims. I'm sure they get a good laugh out of this. And that is exactly what the brainwasher wants. In today's world, brainwashing is different than ever before because we are so easily manipulated by fear more than ever before. We are told what we must do and how it must be done. It may change a little bit here and there, but the message is very clear. Do this or that will happen, and the that will happen is usually negative, so we follow blindly and do the this that will make our lives better. It's after this that the brainwashed turn into sheep. And I like sheep. Sheep blindly follow where they are led. Kind, loving, and beautiful though they are, sheep form in a pack and don't hear the chatter and noise around them. They choose not to. They keep their heads down and mind their own business with their like-minded counterparts. Yes, you better believe it. Sheep are insular animals who hang out with their own kind. They don't do a whole lot to learn about being like any other animal or thinking any other way. Sheep don't know how to do this. And if we were to equate people with sheep, then we would surely know that it is a correct analogy. Sheep go where other sheep are. Groups of sheep gather. Groups of people gather. There is a herd dog directing and leading the sheep when it's time to move to another field or barn. A society usually calls people who blindly follow sheeple. And here's some definitions. People who are like sheep have characteristics of being meek, conforming, or easily led. Maintaining fear, division, and hate is a priority. Sheep are easier to herd when frightened. People who are meekly submissive or easily swayed. How about this one? People who unquestioningly accept as true whatever their political leaders, groups, cults, organizations say, or who adopt popular opinion as their own without scrutiny. Well, people who are docile, compliant, or easily influenced are considered sheeple. From the TrueDemocracyParty.net website, I found this gem and truth bomb. Be a sheeple if you want to emulate other people's goals in life. If you follow the herd or group, you are, in effect, helping another person, perhaps from authority or the government or a political leader or cultist, achieve their own goal. Not yours, theirs, the other person that has brainwashed you into being a sheeple. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Don't stay too well informed. Avoid reading too many books, if any, and if you do read books, occasionally choose fiction over nonfiction and books with lots of pretty pictures instead of books with heavy text. It has almost zero educational value, but it doesn't strain your brain. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. What are you doing? Don't think for yourself. What the majority thinks, you think. Your thoughts should be a barometer of public opinion. And even if sometimes an idea most people believe in is not accurate at all, you still score points with them for believing it and proudly declaring this. They'll adore you. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Always obey authority figures. If you don't obey them and you break the rules, you are certain to get into trouble. Nuh-uh. Fire and brimstone will come down upon you. So no matter how insipid a rule or command seems to you, comply with it. It's easier that way. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Please avoid disapproval like the plague. Avoid getting embarrassed, upsetting others, being inappropriate, tainting your reputation, or getting rejected in any situation. To do this, you must mimic the opinions, ideals, behavior, and lifestyle of others around you. Don't you know that? You must conform to all norms and expectations and fit in perfectly, like a puzzle piece in a puzzle. It's not easy, but if you manage to strip away your individuality entirely, well, you'll be able to never elicit other people's disapproval. And that's so cool. On your deathbed, you'll look back at your life and see an empty and unremarkable existence. But at least you'll know you didn't bother others. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Reject divergent ideas by default. When someone expresses a perspective that's different from your own, immediately assume it is wrong and ignore it, or shut it down at least. If you assess it and analyze the evidence, you might find out it makes much more sense than yours. Not to mention that assessing a new idea can entail a lot of mental effort, and maybe even some hardcore research. Ouch! You must really like to research in order to research, and you might not feel like doing it. In addition, if you accept a perspective that differs from yours as more sensible, others will also expect you to align your behavior with this perspective. And that's a lot of hard work, which can be easily avoided by being stubborn as a mule. Or should I say, sheep? If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Why not let inertia be your guide? Since intentionally behaving in a certain way you're not used to is hard and entails effort, you want to avoid it, right? Only do what comes easy and feels natural to you. Of course, it's easy to do that. Inertia should be the only force propelling you through life. If inertia directs you towards doing something that gets you no results, so be it. If inertia directs you towards not doing anything, lying on the couch all day, eating potato chips, and watching reruns all day, then that's what you'll do. Conscious change is overrated. If you want to be a sheeple, do this. Oh, this has to be my favorite. Judge others based on appearances and stereotypes. Boy, oh boy, this is a hot one. There is no need to genuinely get to know another person before forming a firm opinion about them. Yes, it's true. Relying on appearances and stereotypes is sufficient, as they are exact and universal indicators of how people are deep down. Some stereotypes are like this. If a person is from a small town, they are clearly stupid. If a person is Asian, they are obviously a nerd. If a person is overweight, they are evidently slothful. What's so hard to understand about that? And to finish up, if you want to be a sheeple, do this. If your life sucks, blame the system, of course. If you live by the rules without any doubt, your life will suck. Yes, it will be simple and uncomplicated, but it won't be fun and fulfilling either. Your emotions will mostly swing from boredom to mild amusement to frustration to depression and then to boredom again. When you realize life sucks, the distinctive reaction is to blame the system. So do this. Convince yourself that it's not your fault. It's the system's fault. Of course. The system should have taken care of all your needs and make you happy without requiring you to think for yourself. Why would you want to do that? Assuming responsibility, personal responsibility for your own existence implies thinking responsibly and rationally. It's so much easier to blame the system. Life will continue to suck. It will probably get worse with every passing day. But at the very least, you will not feel guilty about it. And that is so cool. So now I will ask you a favor. I will ask you to take all of these, if you want to be a sheeple, examples, and reverse them and become a thinking, bright, wonderful, active, intuitive, focused, fulfilled person that wants to learn more about our society and culture. That's a much better way. So now I must leave you on a happy note. I can't just leave you feeling all sad and thinking about being brainwashed. But takeaways are always important. My call to actions are hopeful and doable. These points will lead to a clearer, happier, more stable you. A you can be and will be proud of. So here we go. Don't believe all that you read online or see on social media or mainstream media. Unfortunately, everything is polarized and represents opinions that may not be yours. They probably aren't. Take the time to absorb it and decide for yourself. At first, my suggestion is that you may want to do this thinking while you are alone, perhaps sitting with a cup of coffee in the morning. Ask yourself, does this make sense, or is it an idea or thought that was promulgated by people who want what they selfishly want and not what I want. Easy enough. And so part 2 of this is to use your gut feeling. And the pit of your stomach is the place that you can tell if something feels right or wrong, if it is the truth or a big fat lie, told to you by those that don't have your best interest at heart. You can tell that. And as I always say, and this is part 3 of this one, question everything and do your own research. That is definitely a call to action. Then have 1 or 2 days per week that you turn off all your devices. Do something fun outside or watch a light-hearted movie. Go see family. Read a book. There are a number of things you could be doing. There is a fun life out there that is worth investigating. Don't hastily buy into fear. If you do, you give what is being told to you more power. Power instigated by evil intentioned people or groups. You know this. These are people with their own agenda that only want to reinforce your fear for their benefit. As I have often said and believe, fear brings nothing good. Negativity comes from being afraid. Then you are captive. You are a prisoner in your own mind. Fear feeds on fear, and then you see the world in fear and negativity. It's all around you if you let it be. It's insidious. It won't leave you quickly. Once again, and I can't say this enough, question everything you are told to keep that fear at bay. It's a sad day when you must have to do this because you, me, and everybody wants to believe that others have our best interests at heart. They don't. Usually, there are a few trusted people who care and believe in the freedoms that you have been given to choose what your truth is. Don't follow the crowd. No matter how hard this may be, you must think if this is right for you. I have always been an introvert and have never been tempted to follow anyone or be in a box. This has served me well over the years. Try to separate or detach yourself if you feel you are being persuaded to believe one way or another. Don't be afraid to be different because we are all different, right? We were made different. Thankfully, when you act and don't blindly let a person or group or cult or any other person, a political party, persuade your own thoughts, you have won. You are your own self and you are speaking your truth. And that is so cool. And lastly, but most importantly, this is the Truth Detective message I want you all to hear. We are Americans. Every single individual that is a citizen of the United States. This is a very special thing indeed. I have never felt so passionate about being American until about a decade ago, when I became aware of societal, cultural, political issues that affect all of us. And I also became abundantly aware of the Constitution. The Constitution may make some individuals very uncomfortable, and they may make some individuals cringe, thinking of the uptight conservatives that love the Constitution. But wait here. Here's the thing. I did this episode to tell you about brainwashing in general terms and how it might affect you and your opinions and decisions in your life, right? The Constitution says in the First Amendment that there is such a thing as freedom of speech, freedom to peaceably protest, and that's something that we all do. And that's fantastic for all of us. Without the First Amendment, we would not be able to express ourselves at all. Those are our rights. I can express my opinion and you are able to express yours. Yay, I am happy about that. We are on an equal footing. We may disagree. It is legit, and I encourage you to take advantage of this constitutional right. For me, I continue to learn, read, study, investigate what makes America, America. Hopefully, it's the good and not so much the bad and ugly. Hopefully, I can give you something to think about, to ponder, to perhaps discuss with family and friends, but most importantly, to understand the world and how it's always changing. To look forward to sunny days and better relationships with people you know or have just met. The anger can and will dissipate when we relax and realize we are all still learning. We have such a small amount of time here on earth, and we are fortunate to have this time. Use your time here wisely. Realize you have more strength, more will, more focus, more intuition, and way more faith and love in humankind than you know. Use your freedoms to express whatever you feel because you can. You can. You are a one-of-a-kind American, and that's a fantastic thing to be. And I want that for you today and every day. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode of Truth Detective, that's great, and I love that. Go to truthdetectivepodcast.com to get to all my episodes, my show notes, and there's a little bio on me if you're wondering what I'm all about. There is a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/truthdetective. And you can email me, truthdetectivepodcast@gmail.com. You can even leave a voicemail, speakpipe.com/truthdetective. That's it for this episode on brainwashing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.